Lesson 7. From unity you arise. To return to unity is your growth. The mind discovers the path of return, but the heart provides the key to each stage along the way. Dear friend, meditation, prayer, ritual. These three techniques are actually three methods in which one strives to establish a contact between the consciousness of the earth self and the consciousness of the higher self. We consider two parts in an incarnated man. The first, level 10, is called the little king in occult texts because, by natural decree, man's cerebral part is the absolute master of his earthly kingdom for the duration of his incarnation. The other part, levels 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, is called the great king. The word king is accurate because each of the two parts of man's entity is a king in its domain. The great king cannot intervene in the kingdom of earth if the little king, or the physical consciousness, doesn't allow him to. In other words, if the little king, the intellect which results from the incarnation of consciousness into matter, does not agree to move from his throne, the action of the great king, the whole comprising all of man's non-incarnated elements, is impossible. To the degree that the contact hasn't been re-established between the two kings, man sinks into materialism and cannot receive any spiritual help from the higher self except in the event of a serious threat against his physical life, if his life hasn't reached the end planned for in this particular incarnation. For non-initiates, this leads to the building of a mental barrier which prevents communication between the two kings. Indeed, if man, once again the little king, doesn't take the necessary steps to establish a bridge between the two kingdoms, he remains stuck. In a way, he maintains this barrier effectively even if he doesn't really intend it so. Man is intelligence by nature and he has the free will to want or not want something. For example, wanting or not wanting to know what lies beyond him. He is free to do so or not. But if he chooses to know, it is up to him to knock, and it shall be opened. The Bible. It is that simple. What do you do when you are thirsty? You turn the water tap on. Meditation, prayer and ritual actually are tools for knocking. Learning, however, requires time and technique, and the first time you knock, you are unlikely to receive the response, enter, that directly. Only symbols will allow you to re-establish a contact, in the beginning. As an aside, at a step closer to us, psychology is attempting the same thing. That is, discoursing with the psyche. Little by little, if we are of good will, the great king will communicate to us through the symbol which is needed for our initiation. The three following techniques should allow the inner birth of symbols in order to establish the dialogue between consciousness and the unconscious. Meditation is generally misunderstood because it is a passive process, not an active one. Following from what we just mentioned, Dalai, the little king, must get up from his throne so that Nishama, the great king, can intervene. In the same way, an effective meditation implies that the intellectual apparatus is completely at rest. We must not even think that we no longer think. It has been observed that most people attain this state more easily in the evening just before sleep. When we reach this state, we suddenly pass to a second state, in which the higher self steeps us with the elements he assumes useful for our current position on the path. The information we receive is either transmitted in the form of symbols, or better even, as a genuine personal teaching, the night school. Remember, we do not meditate, we are meditated. Like the image we already presented, we should be in the state of a fisherman who throws the bait and patiently waits for the fish to nibble at it. If you wish to receive information on a specific subject through meditation, you need to use the following method: concentrate on a subject and on that subject only. Strive not to let your thoughts or your imagination drift away. Repeat the operation often to give a unitary quality to the subject. Visualize the subject like a scenario and keep it with the theater's rule of 3, subject, space, time. If you have difficulties in mastering visualization, tell yourself the story and condense it. Distill it step by step so that it becomes a compact summary and reduce it to a single word. When you reach this point of concentration on the unitary aspect of the subject or on the unique word, strive to become passive and let the word dissolve into the appropriate mental void. As soon as the meditation is complete, if there is an inner revelation, write it down immediately, because for the most part, it belongs to the domain of the volatile more than the domain of the fixed. Prayer in all the lessons of our association, alchemy, Kabbalah, and now the class of fundamentals of esoteric knowledge. You can read the words, ora et labora, at the end of the texts. It means, pray and work. The sense of what is meant by prayer should not mean the same thing for the initiate or one who seeks initiation as for the members of the outer churches. Especially since the misunderstanding of the meaning of prayer constitutes one of the inner barriers which breaks communication between the self of the earth and the higher self. This barrier has been raised precisely because of the instructions and practices of the outer churches. These churches, which are more concerned with material domination than esoteric education, have found in prayer a tool to keep man in submission. We could almost say humiliation. After which, they bring up atonement to save him. What is more serious, however, is that they have kept man in ignorance of the limits of the possible influence of prayer, allowing man to set for himself impossible hopes. Remember, the laws of the universe are fixed laws. Whoever has access to these laws knows very well that no one can go against them and that every request should obligatorily be in accordance with them. In regard to those laws, prayer is an attempt to pass a message through to our inner self. When we formulate a prayer, we strive to believe that we are addressing our inner master. We mustn't kneel down or take any humiliating posture. Physical man is as sacred as the rest of creation. The best attitude for prayer is casual conversation. As a matter of fact, to pray is neither to beg, to implore, nor to beseech the goodwill of an all-powerful entity. It is a dialogue with the highest part of ourself who can access the Great All. To do so, we need to leave our old clothes in the cloakroom and come as we are, neither more beautiful nor more ugly than we are at that moment, but willing to listen. Today, we could say with the intent to be on. From a practical point of view, be cautious about the following point: when the time comes to describe your problem, you cannot choose the nature of the solution. Alone the king of the inner invisible world decides on the solution. In fact, he is in the best position to read the great book of nature. Your attitude toward him should be to respect his advice as that of a spiritual father. Further still, from a practical point of view, it is quite useless to pray to angelic, archangelic or other hierarchies. Even though they often present themselves in the form of a human archetype, as do all entities of the invisible world, they are neither free nor conscious of the self. They are nature's computers. If we have the appropriate level of knowledge, we can program them for a specific result, provided the program is accepted by the computer. Be careful. Once the program has started, it can't be stopped. Thus, if one day you realize in the course of a contact that you have authority over them, do not act blindly, and if you cannot foresee all the consequences of your command, do not give it. Because once the process is started, it will take place inexorably according to law. Angels have no hate, love nor feelings. From the point of view of the earth, the best is to see them as machines or as computers, as we mentioned, rather than beings. However, be careful about what we just said, for this does not pertain to the geniuses of the presence, the planetary geniuses, even though religions have given them names of angels or archangels. Perhaps you have already grasped at this point in our explanations that through prayer, results can be obtained which go beyond the possibilities of the known physical laws, because these laws are the consequences of nature's laws but of a higher order. Establishing an inner contact gives access to these higher laws and thus allows results which cannot be obtained otherwise. Anyway, we assert, in all cases, that the laws of the invisible and visible worlds, that of the second causes, cannot be broken. Insofar as the reascending path has been reclaimed, we can automatically access a certain number of spiritual laws transcending physical laws. For all situations within the framework of those laws, prayer is no longer necessary because you already possess the means to act on your own. This is the case for the initiate. For him, prayer is a conversation between the two selves, directly accessible without any form of preparation because his state automatically dissolves the inner barriers. At the stage of the student or the adept on the path, the goodwill of the two selves is acquired and prayer becomes a kind of ceremony, an invitation to converse. For the members of outer churches, laymen or prayer groups, the results obtained through prayer do not proceed from the same interlocutor and the effect is obtained through an egregor. See Lesson 1, the egregor of the religion or that of the group. In this case, a group is asking, not an individual. Therefore, the action cannot result in a genuine conversation with the holy guardian angel, the great king. However, some results are definitely obtained at the level of healing or solutions found for problems of a material order. Beware and be very watchful. Some groups use the energies which are evoked by the members of the egregor to other ends than those claimed officially. Rituals. There are several types of rituals, each with different aims. They are all based upon the action of both symbolisms. Passive symbolism, as we know, uses space, the passive element of the infinite, to create a resonance between the two selves. It uses drawings, pentacles, to this end, gestures, tracing of the polygons with a sword, and spatially oriented figures. Active symbolism, as we know, uses time, the active element of eternity. It plays on numbers, on the frequency, on the word. Its means of application are speech but also colors, perfumes, the chemical vibrations of stones, plants or liquids. Those means other than speech, all of vibratory states resonating with the senses of perception separate from auditory perception. They are the more subtle and occult aspects of the word. We should remember that the unitary, integrated perception is composed of the perceptions of the 5 terrestrial senses and a lot of other things in addition. Use of rituals. First use. It is a preparation during which the ritual acts upon man's inner energies and strives to balance, harmonize and reinforce them. This consolidation renders the contact between the two selves easier. Second use. It is a protection during which the ritual creates a wall, an armor against a harmful or negative psychic environment. One of the aims of the ritual could be to neutralize this environment or to render it benevolent. At the same time, it eliminates the hindrances and obstacles of the path. Third use. This time it is the realization proper. The ritual aims at thinning or piercing the barrier of matter which prevents contact between the two kings. This is called, to attempt and obtain a conversation with the holy guardian angel. In this case, the focal point of the self-consciousness raises temporarily. Repeated conversations can result in a permanent communication, an attainment which lasts throughout the following incarnations. Fourth use. Here, the ritual acts on outer energies or the energies of others. In this domain, the greatest prudence and circumspection are necessary. Where can we find the rituals? There are a number of books currently accessible which give rituals. In any case, with progress and the understanding of symbolism we can bit by bit learn to create the solution which consists of writing our own rituals. These are the best for you. The present class contains enough elements to lead you to this point. When inner contact has been sufficiently established, the solution is simple, no ritual is needed. We can listen, in spirit, to the alchemist philosopher Sandivacus who says, "Now burn all your books including mine." For those who wish to look at the works of Israel regarding entrance, they contain the complete Kabbalistic rituals of the Golden Dawn. Common points to meditation, prayer and ritual: state of mind, no spirit of submission, but open attitude of cordiality almost. Always strive to obtain a communication between the two selves. Passive attitude in meditation. Active attitude in prayer. Active attitude and, in a sense, authority over the energies in the ritual. Ethics. It can be summarized in a few words: disinterestedness, and love of others. As you advance on the path, never violate nature or its emanations. This work requires patience and tenacity, but it excludes mental uptightness. You should be able to accept all that is revealed by the inner. Square breathing and relaxation before any work of this kind is very good. Work in the oratory. We are more than halfway through this class, and we know very well that the exercises proposed in the oratory work cannot be accomplished in 1 year's time because of their number, if one hasn't previously worked in practical esotericism. For that reason we will pause now and review each of the preceding exercises. The checkerboard, Lesson #1. This exercise actually develops the power of concentration. When you can quickly obtain the uniform color, in about half a minute for example, you have moved closer to the phase in which passing to the second state is possible. The checkerboard symbolism is balance in the quaternary. There are the same number of black and white squares. Their visual fusion signifies that balance is re-established on the one hand, and on the other that from duality there is a return to unity. If you do not obtain the uniform color, practice the exercise regularly. Once you are able to obtain the uniform color, you no longer need to practice the exercise. The mirror, Lesson 2, its symbolism differs from the checkerboard's symbolism. The mirror recalls the phenomenon in which the one creates duality through its own reflection upon itself. The mirror exercise allows your concentration to reach a higher point than if you were to concentrate on the checkerboard. In fact, if you go beyond the black phase, you go from concentration to genuine meditation, and enter the second state, and, possibly, resonate with one level of nature's memories. With patience, you can reach the point where you can actually ask the mirror, magic mirror on the wall, tell me who is the most beautiful one of all? We repeat that whoever has attained the black phase can look into the mirror during meditation. However, as long as you haven't reached this point, keep your eyes closed during meditation. If, to the present day, you haven't succeeded in the checkerboard exercise, you should now go on and attempt the mirror exercise. In addition, it is good to start all your oratory sittings by a meditation concentration before the mirror. You can of course do mirror seances without doing any other exercise. Always remember that you should stop whenever you feel a sensation of cold. Meditation on Saturn, Lesson 3, the aim of this exercise is multiple. Saturn Chronos is the father of time. Eternity becomes space-time, and on the return space-time becomes eternity. This takes place at the level of Saturn. The meditation concentration on Saturn may bring a temporary realization of eternity. This results in a kind of unsual mental clarity. The ancients used to say of Saturn that it is the medium kili. Therefore, the exercise can create a resonance with the highest levels of the finite world. Finally, Saturn also rules the channel which conducts lunar energies to Earth. It can therefore help us resolve numerous problems concerning the material world which hinder our esoteric progression. This exercise can be performed if you wish with a more specific focus in the event of problems in the material world. Meditation on the polygons, Lesson 4. These are the most abstract symbols existing for each of the 10 levels. In addition, there are no other symbolic tools which approach this close to the very nature of each level. The pictographs of the planetary symbols are not as powerful. Polygons are pure symbols absolutely free from any stain coming from an egregore or religious symbolism. Therefore they have the advantage of allowing you a maximum of inner freedom. For practical reasons in the visualization of the next exercises, it is good to associate with each work with a polygon the astrological symbol of the corresponding planet. Because the pictograph of the planetary sign is more familiar, it will initiate the contact with the desired plane more quickly. When you begin to obtain some resonance with the polygons, add to the exercises of Lesson 4 the following phase: visualize in light the series of the polygons of a specific level. The light should be all the more intense because the angles of the polygons are acute. The 40 invocations, Lesson 5. For the creation of energy, this exercise is the most important among all the exercises we have proposed. It applies the principles of purification used in spagyrics to the mental state, separate the three principles, strengthen and reunite them. Here the separation occurs mentally rather than materially. The vocalization of the rest of the names in the columns fire and air is designed to increase your psyche's and soul's energy without involving the energies of nature. The